Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Big, bright monitor behind us with one of your Turks and one of your jerks. We'll get to all of these in just a second. JR and Jason here. Ben Menk on a plane, I believe. He texted me he was at the airport, so he will not be here.
He's putting out some bets right now on a plane.
I forgot, did I tell you that when Rick was here, the OG Rick Strom, that he told me that Ben once bet on the Little League World Series?
Degenerates will be degenerates.
Right, absolutely. It does have its effect because on Thursdays, usually Thursday, Ben's in the morning for the Flick show. Ben, who are you taking tonight? You got if it was Bears and the Vikings. Last week it was the Jaguars and the Titans. Ben, who you got tonight? The Jaguars or the Titans? He's like, you got to take the Jaguars. You got to take the Jaguars.
You have to.
All right, Ben, you sound pretty confident. You know what you're doing. I'll take the Jaguars. It's like 24-0 in the first quarter.
It's obviously one of those cases where you ask someone their opinion on who to take, and then you take the opposite.
That's always what Rick told me, speaking of. It's just whatever Ben does, do the opposite. You'll win every football pool. All right, so in terms of NFL, are we in week 8? I think it is week 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
As long as you look at the Browns' record and see how many losses
they
that's how
have.
many weeks we
And then
are.
you have to maybe add one more for the bye week. But yes, we are almost halfway through the NFL season, technically halfway through the NFL season, but there's 17 weeks. And in general, it was one of the more exciting weeks of football. I say that because they were talking about the ratings dip for the NFL this year, and they're freaking out, and 8% down in this, and 3% down in this demographic. No, it's a roller. Ratings game has always been a roller coaster. But they said part of that was the afternoon games. People were losing interest because it was blowouts heading up to this point. A couple of games came down to the wire. We had another tie, 27-27. But JR, I know you want to
2 weeks straight, man.
You want to get us started on some Oakland Raiders.
And I think it was 3 weeks straight on the Sunday night game that went to overtime, I believe.
Yeah, there's been a lot. First, there's been a lot of overtime.
Yeah. So 3 weeks straight of the Sunday night game went to overtime, and of course, these aren't the ones that ended in ties.
Right.
So the London game ended in a tie.
I want them all to end in ties. I think, again, I've heard some crazy ideas for like tiebreakers. Instead of it ending in a tie, like after 15 minutes, like you just throw the quarterbacks on like their own 30-yard line. Whoever can throw it through the uprights, like they win.
Honestly, I think they should eliminate the tie after an overtime. Why?
Well, they have penalty kicks in world football. Why don't we just have penalty field goal kicks? It's not a guarantee that even from 30 yards that any of them are going to make it.
The way anyway, we'll go to it.
We'll get to that for sure.
Either way, we're going to go with the nice guys first.
Yes.
This is a reoccurring theme for me, and I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what's wrong. Everyone's going to be happy to hear this.
The Raiders.
But the Raiders. The effing Raiders.
6-2.
Just win, baby.
Yeah, 6-2.
I don't like the Raiders, but they look great.
Do you have something against the Raiders, or just they're not the Rams?
The same thing I had against the Raiders is what I had against the Lakers when I first came back here. They have obnoxious fans. And so I had to deal with so many people saying ridiculous things that I was like, I hate your team. So that's partially why I dislike the Patriots, outside of the main fact that they're cheaters. So when it comes to things like that, I had a disdain for the Raiders. It was around the time they went to the Super Bowl and they got dismantled by the Bucks because they decided not to change anything about their entire system when they play against a coach who had just left the year before.
Oh, right.
I remember and that's I can't believe we're on this tangent, but you asked why I dislike the Raiders.
It's a good tangent.
So John Gruden, as history tells us, left the Raiders, was fired. It was a bad situation the way he left. I can't remember.
Al.
Yeah, he was fired with
the
Al.
The bowl cut. Al Davis, thank you.
So he goes to Tampa Bay. They meet in the Super Bowl the next year. Because Raiders are still good because it was a good team that Gruden had put together.
Right.
And I remember this is what was said. Some of the players on the Raiders said on offense, as they're about to start a play, the defense is going, they're calling our play. They're calling our play. They know what we're doing every play. It was that bad. I think it was it Callahan was the coach then? Callahan didn't change anything that Gruden put in place. And so Gruden said, this is my system. I know this system. I coached it. I created it.
Oh, so
they got dismantled.
It's like the biggest advantage in Super Bowl history. I mean, they all, and to Gruden's credit, as a great defensive-minded coach as well, but just Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, they had a superstar in every level of that defense. And I'm missing some guys, too, just off the top of my head. But all Hall of Famers, I'm pretty sure. Maybe not Rondé Barber. Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp.
So they dismantled them. And I felt a little bad for the Raiders because, you at least want a team to have a chance, but I didn't care much then. Either way it goes. The Raiders now,
this week.
For the second time this season, the Turk this week's Raiders / Derek Carr, the little guy. Derek Carr. I think we'll start with a D. Come on, man.
D. Carr.
Carr. It's easy. They're 5-0 on the road They beat the Bucks
So
in overtime.
means they're 1-2 at home. That's not good.
That is what
they
that
also have a
means.
lot of home games. That's like
That
the
is-
Giants when they play. They're always like good on the road.
But it means
terrible
that
at
maybe
home.
they're going to end in the season with more home games, which is bad news.
They must, yeah. That's
But
true.
see,
That was
so
good.
the problems a lot of Raiders fans had, they overcame things that were negative. The 23 penalties, which was a record in a game for NFL.
So many penalties.
They set a record for penalties and they still won. Yes, they had to go to overtime for it. Again, Carr throws for 512 yards. That is a franchise record. 0 interceptions. The man was on 513. Did I say that correctly? 513. No interceptions, 4 touchdowns. The man was on fire. What can you do? These guys look great, and so I can have a little tip of the hat because a Trojan does run that team now.
That's
Head
true.
coach
I feel
Jack
like
Del Rio is a Trojan.
I want at some point by the end of the year, you need to put together your all active USC Trojans team. They can be coaches.
This could take all day. You're
players.
gonna talk about that.
No, there's a lot. I mean, look, the Trojans are they're like Kentucky of basketball. There's a lot of guys that come to USC and they're pro-ready players.
Yeah.
It's not the same for every team. Not the same for every college program too. Alabama does the same thing. They have just a bunch of pro-ready defensive players.
I was actually a little
every year.
worried, not worried, expecting even the Raiders to go for 2 when they tied up the game at the end of the game. I was like, they did it before.
Oh, yeah,
they
no,
did
no.
it before.
So that wouldn't have been surprising. However, so there's a couple things that I found fascinating about the Raiders game. For one, Amari Cooper dropped the pass, and you have to. He could be one of the guys that you go like, God damn, Derek Carr's doing everything for this team right now. And Amari Cooper's been phenomenal all his rookie year, all his sophomore year. It was his second drop pass of the season. That was it. And it was just a bad time to drop a pass. When the ball was in the air and you see Cooper get space, you go, well, that's going to be a first down. It was shocking to see that one. The penalties, right? So everyone talks about, it's a record-setting amount of penalties. I feel like when it comes to execution, and now we're halfway through the season, it's a fixable thing. That's not something you really, like, if you're getting penalized that much, obviously this week in practice, you're going to work on not holding and making sure that you're not, too much contact in the beginning when the receivers are getting off the ball, like false starts, get the play calling and execution down even better, because you're still, obviously it's working well enough if you're throwing 513 yards. However, he didn't throw for 513 yards. In all reality, Derek Carr threw for about 385 yards and 3 touchdowns, because Sebastian Janikowski came into that game at the end, to which, to Janikowski's credit, he's not one of the guys you would think is going to miss these field goals. His leg is the size of that of Ronaldo's, and 50-plus yard field goals, he's hit, 10 every single season or 5 every season. He doesn't miss those usually. When it comes to the leg, they have everybody's field goal range. And it's like the 32-yard line for most teams. And for the Raiders, it's like, just get to like the 41.
40, yeah.
Janikowski will get it there. And he missed it. He missed that one bad. And then he got another shot in overtime. So you got to count, there was the game-winning touchdown, which was like a 40-yard completion plus the run, or 20-yard completion plus the run for 20 yards in the end zone. You had Michael Crabtree's big break.
Yes.
Derek Carr really had 385 yards in that one. I think we're going to talk about a statistic to be created for interceptions.
Yeah, I think I saw Derek on the sideline. He leaned over to Janikowski and said, miss it, I want more.
He's like, have me on my fantasy team. I'm betting on myself. I like the pick for the Raiders. It was a really entertaining game altogether, and a big, big, big win. 6-2.
Absolutely.
They haven't started this way since 2001, I believe, is the last time they were 6-2. There's a lot of weird things happening in sports this year. The Raiders are one of them. My Turk is Alex Smith's wife. You're going, why? Why is it Alex
Is this one of
Smith's
those
wife?
like wags things? Where people
Yeah,
talk about
well,
hot,
yeah,
hot players' wives are?
Mrs. Smith.
Isn't that what it's called, wags? Or
We have
just wags
wives and
as well?
girlfriends, wags. Mrs. Smith is a very kind lady, I would assume, to Alex Smith, but she is not too kind to the Kansas City local weatherman, Gary Lesick. Gary Lesick, not to be messed up with Larry Lesick.
Larry Lesick, yeah.
I don't think they're related either. However, neither have a shot at the general election this year. Gary Lesick, at G. Lesick, said, while Nick Foles was in running the offense, he said on Twitter, was Nick Foles running the offense better? Go defense. And then Nick Foles hooks up for a touchdown pass. It was a nice 40-yard connection. Chiefs go up. That play does not happen with Alex Smith. Touchdown at Chiefs. Elizabeth Smith fires back. Liz B. Smith, 11 on Twitter. Do yourself and everyone else a favor. Stick to what you know. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And truthfully, Alex Smith is a much better quarterback than Nick Foles. I don't want to say it's heads over heels better, but time and time again, the Chiefs run into the Patriots in the postseason, and then they lose. Mostly because Andy Reid, who Drew McGarry once called a tomato blimp on the sideline, can't manage a clock, as Ben always likes to go on his rants during the playoffs. And the Chiefs, I mean, you remember last year's playoff game? I think they were down 2 touchdowns, and they were playing. They were playing like, we got a 12-point lead. Yeah, we'll run it here. Ooh, Jamal Charles in the flat for 3 yards right over the middle. So again, I think Alex Smith is the better quarterback. I don't think neither Alex Smith nor Nick Foles are going to get you a Super Bowl, but Alex Smith has proven that at least he can get you to the playoffs.
I mean, if what's her first name? Alex Smith's wife?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
I wish it was also Alex Smith.
That'd be
That
awesome.
make me so happy.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith, I like the fire. Mm-hmm. I like the determination. I like you standing by your man. That's awesome.
Yeah, why not?
I would have wished she had like some extra, evidence on top of it. Like, whenever you tell someone that they're too stupid, and it's embarrassing, stick to what you know. Usually, I was expecting, do you know that this, and this, and this stat, and this stat, and in this situation, and then he has to shut up.
She could have done, like, let's say it was 55 degrees in Kansas City that day. She should have said, like, it's right now downpouring in Kansas City. There could be a flood warning. Oh, wait, I'm not a weatherman. Stick to what you know.
She needs someone to write her tweets with
Is
his clever turns.
Is it snowing in KC? The actual, he could be Turk and jerk, so I'm not going to do it for Turks, even though he's half a jerk. The first half, Dak Prescott was a jerk. Dak Prescott was looking like a rookie. He threw an interception. I know, like, Colin Coward's like, Tony Romo doesn't throw that interception. And now I'm starting to believe that Dak Prescott maybe really should be running this team. But the second half and overtime, Dak Prescott overcame his difficulties. I like seeing quarterbacks who make mistakes in the first half correct them in the second half. He got a lot done with his legs, scrambled out and found a wide-open Jason Witten, was utilizing Dez Bryant as the weapon he is. They were talking all season long. If Dez's foot is okay and Dak Prescott can get on that same level that Tony Romo had with him, well, you started to see that finally. Dez Bryant got a nice, like, they went downfield to him, right-hand sideline, 40, 50 yards in the beginning. It was a 52-yard completion. And then he had the contorted, twisting, outside thrown touchdown grab. He made a better catch than it was a throw regardless. The Eagles, who I do still think Carson Wentz is going to be a very good quarterback. Right now, it looks like Dak Prescott is ahead because he's got a behemoth of an offensive line in front of him. So.
And again, it's a mindset. It allows you to be calm. So when you have mistakes, you have a bad first half. This is, again, I feel like every week I also have a frustration with pundits. By the way, did you know Tom Brady's back? But
Tom Brady's going to win the MVP.
Tom Brady's
He's got 12
back.
touchdowns, I think, 0 interceptions.
Back.
It's like yards per attempt is the highest it's ever been.
He said, no, this is like his third game back.
Fourth.
And his fourth game back.
4-0.
Oh, yeah, I thought he's been for 5 games. He's been for 4 games. So he's back. I'm excited about it. Tom Brady's back. But anyway, you talked about how people were like, there's this negative view about Prescott. As if every quarterback in the league has never had struggles, even or a bad half,
you're not
and then
allowed
come
to.
back. So before it's even over, they're like, oh, Dak Prescott looking like a rookie. Calm down. You know, guys that have, you know who else is looking pretty bad right now? Carson Palmer, who's a serious veteran.
Yeah,
the
we
whole team is looking
we
bad.
haven't talked about that one enough either. We should save it for jerks, though, because we want to wrap up this one before we Ben Mank it for 15 minutes.
I just don't like how people let him play first before you start calling him out. You let everyone else play.
But that's so funny is because in the first 2-3 weeks of the season, we kept saying well, he's got to face a tough test, and then if he faces the tough test, then we'll start seeing those rookie moves come out. And I know I just said it too because the point of my comment at least was I like seeing rookies when they correct their mistakes, or even sophomores or young quarterbacks in the league. Jameis Winston's in the league, Marcus Mariota's. If they have a bad game and they come back the next week and they show everybody, no, it was just one bad game. Right. I think Dak Prescott's been proving that. I think it just took me a lot longer than it took other people. I didn't want to be the guy in week 1 to say, it's Dak's team.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to wait until moments like this to really show that obviously he has something extra he's got.
And we're overlooking the fact that there's professional defenses in the league. There's professional defensive coordinators. There's professional defensive linemen, linebackers, and corners and safeties. They know how to play football. So if they stop someone every once in a while, it's not that other person's fault. Right. It's competition. Jesus.
Right. They're professionals.
Crazy how that works, yeah.
Yeah, they're good at their jobs. Comment below, like, favorite, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to leave your Turks the best of week 8 in the comment section below. We'll see you next time.